Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you live from Corner of the Galaxy Studios on Thursday, May 31st, very last day of May before we enter the month of June, and we inch ever so closer to the World Cup break. LA Galaxy have 2 MLS regular season games remaining before that MLS Cup break, and then, of course, they will also have a U.S. Open Cup game coming up on Wednesday, June 6th. So we have a bunch of things to talk about. In order to help us do that, we are joined by my ever-wonderful co-host, Miss Wendy Thomas. Wendy, thanks for stopping by. How are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm feeling great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I didn't get to work out today. This is like on my podcast days I don't get to work out, and I feel like, you know, it's been 2 days now, and I'm sort of hooked. I have this nice little addiction going on, and so I would like to get back there. So I will be working out on Friday. So that's
those
sweet
endorphins. Oh. They give you that workout rush. You feel so good. And I work out in the morning. I wake up. Everyone, I don't know if no one probably knows this. I rise absurdly early in the morning. I'm a big morning person, so I wake up maybe around 4:30 in the morning, and I work out at 6 a.m.
You're crazy.
So I get everything done very early, and the whole rest of the day you feel so good because you've already gotten all your exercise in.
Yeah, and then you're like, I can go to In-N-Out because I worked out. Oh, wait. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't quite work that way.
Maybe you can go to In-N-Out. I can't go to the In-N-Out. I can't do that.
Yeah, if I end up doing double duty, that's for sure. I could do 2 workouts, so maybe I could go to In-N-Out. That's how it works. But coming off a midweek LA Galaxy game, a 3-2 loss. Wow, that sounds familiar. A 3-2 loss to FC Dallas. That sounds familiar. It's like a broken record. I want to cut and paste my FC Dallas game loss from the previous game. The things that happened in the first FC Dallas game where they were in Dallas, they lost 3-2. They almost mirrored themselves completely and totally perfectly in this game. And it should be a reminder to LA Galaxy fans, at least in my opinion, Wendy, that the LA Galaxy are not better than FC Dallas because they beat them twice, and they beat them twice down a man. All right, FC Dallas is the better team. If you're trying to figure out where the Galaxy are, in my mind, Wendy, they're not better than FC Dallas, which kind of stinks because I think that they could be if they could focus for longer than about 20 minutes at a time.
Yes, and there's one important lesson to be drawn from 2 points that you just made. The first is that the LA Galaxy has the talent to beat LA Galaxy, to beat FC Dallas, and yet in 2 different instances, they did not produce an outcome in which they did so, which leads you to ask the question, why 2 times in a row does a team that has the talent to beat FC Dallas not do so? The second is that we had duplicate games with the same team very near in time to one another, which demonstrates that whoever is coaching the team did not learn lessons from the first game after watching how it came out about that FC Dallas team and then applied them to the second game played maybe a month later.
Yeah, it's not even a month. It's like a couple weeks. It's about 3 weeks separated. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head here. Here's the biggest frustration, and we can start. The good news is I always like when there's frustration with the lineup because that's usually what you want to talk about first. So you can dig right into one of the biggest issues of this game is the lineup that Sigi Schmid put out. Now, he was talking about how after the San Jose game that they were going to rotate some players and rest some players, and you saw that Ashley Cole came on in the second half in that game, that there was some tiny rotation going on in San Jose, but I was assuming, and I assumed incorrectly, because I guess I'm just an idiot, that the LA Galaxy were focusing on this FC Dallas game. Wendy, you, as a coach, in my mind, you have to sit there and say, okay, how good is my team? What games am I likely to win? Whenever you have a congested little schedule like this, what games am I likely to win? Which game do I have to have the A-plus lineup for? And if you were looking at these games coming up, and you had 3 games, and you actually have 4 games in rapid succession, you had FC Dallas, you have Portland on the weekend, you come home for an Open Cup game, which likely starters won't be a part of at all, so really that's not part of this whole congested schedule whenever you look at it, and then you have an RSL game, okay? So those are your 3 games. So if you look at those games, you have to say that RSL is probably the game that you're most likely to win out of those 3 games, right?
Well, the Open Cup game, I certainly hope we win.
Just toss that one out for right now because, like I said,
Okay.
I don't think the starters are going to play in that. I think it's a mostly reserve lineup. I think they're going to pull up LA Galaxy 2 players to play in it because it's an amateur side. So I would expect that you're not going to see any starters play in that game. That's my expectation. So throw that out. So if you just have these 3 league games, you go FC Dallas. So you're home to FC Dallas, away to Portland, and home to Real Salt Lake.
Right. So we lose to Portland. We could beat RSL, and Dallas is the one that's closest where we could win if we play well. We will lose if we play badly.
So if you're looking at one that says you have to have A+ lineups, probably for RSL and probably for FC Dallas, because Portland is away, it's on turf, it's against a really hot team, you have to travel, it's a short turnaround, all these things are working against you in Portland. So you have to focus on FC Dallas. That's the nearest game. You can say, okay, let's focus on it. So what does he do? Sigi Schmid goes and he starts Daniel Steres, a guy who started against FC Dallas at right back when they lost the last time 3-2 and looked completely disconnected from the team. They torched him on that side. You went and put him back at right. Is this one of those things like it's a redemption tour? Is Daniel Steres supposed to like prove that he wasn't as bad as what he was? And
I was so confused when I saw the lineup and I was looking at him like, this can't be right. They can't. No. They can't be playing Steres at right back. That's not possible.
Yeah,
I was
not again.
Baffled.
Well, okay, so here's my argument, and here's the thing. I want to be very clear about this. I think Daniel Steres is getting a lot of heat, and it's not his fault. Daniel Steres is not a right back.
No. Some of it is his fault.
He's not a right back. Why? If you keep putting him in places, it's like, oh, look, Rafa Garcia can't play right back. Well, yeah, because he's not a right back. Oh, look, Jossie Zardes can't play right back. Yeah, because he's not a right back. Daniel Steres has always been a center back. So if you're going to get on his case, then whenever he plays center back and fails, you can get on his case. He has never been a right back. The Galaxy have 2 other right backs they could be playing. They could be playing Emre Clementa, who has been playing and hasn't been great. All right, but at least he's a right back. Or you could put Dave Romney, who's technically, I will argue this to the day I die, who's technically a center back, but can play the left back and right back roles just fine. So why do you go and put Daniel Steres in a position that he failed before against the very same team he failed against in the same spot to be set up to fail again? That's where I have the biggest issue.
No idea. I was so confused by the line. I mean, I realized the Docenti are gone. I realize that is one thing. So obviously, Gio and Jonah, they're with El Tri, they're playing with the national team. So you have to create a lineup. And when I looked at it, I was like, what? Kamara's on the wing again?
Well,
what is going on?
That's expected. Even though I don't like it, that's expected right now with Ibrahimovic and Kamara because they both play the same position. And Sigi Schmid is trying not to. Here's the biggest problem. You could probably, and I've been arguing this for a while, and they even showed you a little bit of this in the second half that we can talk about, but you can put Kamara up above Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Okay, we know this can happen, and we all like that idea. But the problem is that then how many midfielders does that leave you? Because Zlatan is not going to play midfield. He's going to be a striker. So that leaves you with 4 midfielders, right? And that means that you're going to get outnumbered by an FC Dallas team who, granted, lines up in a 4-3-3, but Diaz and Barrios, they both drop into the midfield, so they technically have 5 midfielders whenever they need it. So then you get the 5-on-4 in the midfield, and Zlatan's not coming back to play defense. And so is Kamara the only one we know will come back and play defense? Do you want him to run by Zlatan as he goes to play defense and then run back up in front of him? So this is the biggest disconnect right now, and it's not even, in my mind, Wendy, it's not even Ibrahimovic's fault. He's never played defense his entire life.
I know. It's not like, I know, yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know. That lineup, though, Steres at right back.
It's not good.
How do you come up with this? How? Dave Romney is, what's wrong with Dave Romney? What'd he do?
No.
Why is he, why?
Yeah, no.
Why can't Dave Romney play?
There's no excuse for this. And even, I don't know why you don't just put, again, FC Dallas, this is probably the game that's going to be the hardest for you to win, but it's the one you have a chance to win because you're at home. Why don't you just go with Cole, Shelvik, Siani, and Romney in a formation that is familiar to all of them with guys that are familiar? Now, granted, they put Tomas Hilliard-Arce in there, and I thought he did okay. I didn't.
Hard to tell.
He ended up, I think, having like 6 headers that he won. He was confident in some areas. He was not confident in others. Sometimes that lack of confidence came because Daniel Steres was partnered next to him.
What was the thinking in this coaching staff and all their benevolent wisdom? Why were they thinking Daniel Steres right back?
Well, I'm guessing they wanted to give people a break. Clementa has been coming out early in the games whenever he's been playing at right back. So you know that he's probably tired and he's played 2 games in a row. So they probably wanted to rest him perhaps for a Portland game. I have no idea. It's so hard just to figure it out. So they wanted to rest players. That's the idea that they went with this. This is why Sigi went with this lineup, is that he was trying to rest some people, okay?
Dave Romney is like 23, 24 years old. Yeah. And he hasn't even been playing full 90-minute. I mean, he could play. He could easily have played 90 minutes in that game.
He could have.
Assuming he's healthy. He's not injured.
No,
is
not.
He injured?
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's fine. He's probably tired from the last. He's been playing a bunch of games. He's probably tired from that. But again, he's younger. You don't have that many games left here. Again, Portland is not the important game here. This is what I think happened. This is my opinion. I don't have anything to go off of except that I think Sigi Schmid thought for a second, hey, how do I win both of these games? And then what I need to get these players to fill in for this. That way they're not tired. And then I can go up to Portland and win that game as well. When instead he should have known the Galaxy aren't that good. Right now, they're not. They're actually, as I believe somebody said, they suck. So they're not that good. They're going against a good FC Dallas team, and they're going against a really good and hot Portland team. You should have looked at that Portland game and written it off. You should have said, hey, we're not going to have Ola Kamara there. He's going to be away on international duty. Zlatan's going to be up top. Maybe that works better. Maybe that's more comfortable for everybody in terms of the formation, but that's not the most important game. The important game is to win your games at home. And I think Sigi Schmid, in trying to win 2 games, Wendy, instead of just trying to win one, the one that was in front of him, overthought this to the death. There's no reason for it. The defense certainly suffered. You saw the Galaxy go down 3-0, by the way, which is different than when they lost to Dallas the first time. In Dallas, they went down 2-1 and then 3-1. But in this case, it was 3-0 before the LA Galaxy finally shifted into an offensive set that they could sort of plow forward with, and that's what ended up allowing them some success. The red card helped. There were a lot of things in this, but it just, in my mind, and Sigi Schmid even said so afterwards, he said, I have to look at myself to see if I made some mistakes, and I think I may have been nodding up and down whenever he was saying it. Because he did. He made a mistake. He overthought it in this case. And you can't start Daniel Steres and Hilliard Arce next to each other and expect that the defense is going to be able to keep somebody like FC Dallas. Wendy, the first FC Dallas goal was a thing of beauty. That's gorgeous playing.
Oh, that was a great goal. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous playing. It's tiki-taka. It was one-touch passing. They had the Galaxy so confused. They were dropping into places. They were moving around. Nothing happened, and then Hollingshead puts the goal in. So that's great. That's what they're supposed to be doing. The second one, a little blown coverage by Ashley Cole in the back post. There was also blown coverage just allowing the freaking cross to come in as well. So lots of things there. And the third goal, you really can't even blame the Galaxy. They're already pressing forward to try to get back into the game at 2-0. And this is the same pattern that we've seen repeated over and over again, as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing new in this game, Wendy. There's no improvements that you saw from this Galaxy. In fact, I think they took a step backwards, even from the horrible games they played against San Jose and Montreal. The only good parts about those that they won both of those games.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. So the question is, and this is something that I talked about with my boyfriend for 20 minutes in the car on the way back, which is clearly the coaching staff is not working for this team right now. They are failing the team because the LA Galaxy, these players, this group of players, has the talent to compete in this league and to win. There we have Zlatan Ibrahimovic, we have Roman Alessandrini, we have Jonathan Dos Santos, we have Sebastian Lletget, we have Ashley Cole, we have Ola Kamara, we have any number of very talented players who can play and win in this league, and yet they're not winning. And I don't think it's a question of they're not committed, with the exception of Giovanni Dos Santos. I think the players generally are really committed to the team. They want to win. They're willing to work hard, and yet something, obviously formations and other things, is leading them to lose. So the coaching staff is not succeeding at their goals. So this is what we talked about, who should be the next LA Galaxy coach? If you want to fire Sigi Schmid.
Yeah, I caught that. That was good. Sigi Schmid, I believe, is what you were looking for.
if you want to fire Sigi Schmid tomorrow and his cohorts, then who?
Yeah.
And my boyfriend recommended the newly fired coach of Chivas de Guadalajara, Matias Almeida. But I am open to any other suggestions that anyone wants to throw out there.
Zidane, right? Zidane is the other one that's in there. Yeah.
Oh, of course, Zidane will not be coaching for Real Madrid. Why don't we give him a call?
I think he would be more than, don't you think? I mean, he's just probably tired of like winning championships, and he wants to come to MLS because it's an up and coming league, and he's so tired of La Liga and the Champions League.
He's very impressed with the strides that we've made.
I'm sure he's that's probably why he quit. I'm sure Chris Klein called Zinedine Zidane and said, "Hey, we know that you're done. We know that you could stay with Real Madrid and probably win another Champions League trophy if you wanted to, but why don't you come coach the LA Galaxy?" And he was like, "You're right. I'm going to quit." And that's probably what forced all this. Yeah, I know. It's one of those.
You've been having some lucid dreams.
People have been talking. I get these all the time where people are like, "Oh, we should get Zidane. Oh, and then he can bring over Cristiano Ronaldo, and we can sell the Dos Santos brothers." I love this stuff. I mean,
I know people's eyes are a little bit bigger than their belly.
Sometimes it's the only thing that keeps me going through a busy day, Wendy, is some of these pipe dreams that people have, and I enjoy that a lot. I would love to see somebody like Greg Berhalter come over to the LA Galaxy. I love Greg Berhalter. I know there's people out there who are saying it's Caleb Porter. I do not believe Caleb Porter is going to be coaching in MLS anytime soon. So just sort of take that what you will. If the Galaxy go that direction, I would be shocked. They're going to have to be, if they go another direction. I like the Chivas de Guadalajara coach. I've heard lots of great things about him. I don't follow a ton of Liga MX, so I've been relying on other people who know things that say he's a great coach. Juan Carlos Osorio was also kicked around because everybody thinks that he's going to get fired or he's going to resign after Mexico gets knocked out in the round of 16 in the World Cup. Which is, if nobody knows that joke, that's when they always get knocked out. So that's
well. Why. Also, it's interesting because Osorio apparently has the most winningest record among El Tri coaches in the past 5 or 10 years. Because El Tri, they go through coaches left and right. I mean, They have 6 months, and then the next one comes in because they pull the trigger on firing people even faster than we do. But I mean, apparently he wins games, and he just hates the press and the negative attention so much that he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would probably enjoy being in the United States a lot better than he does in Mexico. Mexico's high pressure. That's like a thankless job being if you're a Mexican player or a Mexican coach, you can't do anything right. There is no right that you can do for the most part. And so I think maybe a lot of guys.
Osorio. All right, I'm on board. I'm on board with all three of them. In fact, okay, Osorio, Almeida, Berhalter. I'm on board with all three of them. Go ahead.
I'm trying to think if there's anybody. I mean, listen, there's names out there that I'm never going to guess. Those are sort of the guys. I like Greg Berhalter. I think he would do really well with an LA Galaxy team. He just is sort of a no-nonsense sort of guy.
I also think it's interesting because the Columbus Crew have that whole conundrum right now with the fact that the ownership is attempting to move them to Austin. And so Berhalter may be in a position where he either, it's not that he wants to abandon his team or anything, but maybe he is considering the fact that, there's so much in flux with respect to the Crew that maybe it would benefit him to come to the LA Galaxy.
It could. I mean, certainly Ola Kamara wanted to leave that situation, one, because they weren't going to pay him the money that he thought he deserved, and he got that with the Galaxy, and two, because I don't think he wanted to be part of any of that sort of relocation talk or anything that's going on with Columbus and moving to Austin and all those fun things, especially even with FC Cincinnati coming into the league now. Those two could have been really good rivals. Don Garber said as much, and he also said that, if we want to see that going, we still have a lot of work to do with Columbus to see if we can make that happen. It was one of those, throw a bone to people like, oh, there's still a chance. There's no chance. They've already made that decision. So, in my mind,
yeah. But wait a second. The city of Columbus owns the stadium, and they filed a lawsuit against the team to prevent them from breaching their lease. And the penalties associated with a lease of that sort, oftentimes, sports teams have leases that exceed 20, 30, 40, or even 50 years with a team, and the penalties associated with a breach of lease of that nature could run into the millions, tens of millions. It could be a lot of money.
It could be. I think from my non-lawyer mind that's been following all this is that they seem to feel like Columbus is throwing a Hail Mary there and trying to make that happen, and that's going to be a tough thing to sort of enforce. And this is the first time that this is really trying to be enforced. So I think it has a lot of road bumps there. But anyway, to get away from that, I mean, Berhalter in my mind is one of the guys I've liked for a while. I would love to see him. I mean, Peter Vermees is never leaving Sporting Kansas City, as far as I'm concerned, and he's still like sort of the end of an era there in terms of one guy managing it all. So, I think the next person you bring in, you're going to have a GM, a real GM, because the Galaxy technically don't have a general manager right now. They just have general manager duties that are split between everybody and all sorts of things.
I think Jurgen Klinsmann needs a job.
I was going to say that was somebody in the chat room just brought that one up too. He's hanging out at the coffee shop in Costa Mesa, so if you want to talk to him.
He lives within. He could possibly walk to the StubHub Center from where he lives. He lives in Manhattan Beach. He could literally take 10 minutes to get to the StubHub Center.
Yeah. Oh, he'd probably take his helicopter though. That was
yes, he does love his chopper.
Yes. So, but no, I mean those are sort of the names that pop up. I think that there are other on there that we would never have considered. But I think that an international coach is not out of the question as it was in years past, just because it's like, hey, an international coach doesn't understand Major League Soccer. I don't think that's the same as it was. So it's certainly interesting. Another question that sort of popped up on this lineup though, as we go back to this Dallas game though, Wendy, is people are asking why didn't Boateng start after he has been a real difference maker in the last couple games. So we can talk a little bit about that. And then I want to talk. So let's talk about these two things: is that Boateng didn't start, why he didn't start, and then there's a giant hole in the middle of the LA Galaxy offense. It's gigantic. In fact, I was drawing air circles on it for most of the night with Larry Morgan, who writes for Corner of the Galaxy. He sits next to me in the press box. I go, look at the middle. Look, there's nobody in the middle. Look, there's nobody in the middle, Larry. Who are they going to pass to? And there was nobody there. And this is where we get into those problems. So I'll start with Boateng here. I will tell you why I think Boateng's not starting is because he is way too effective coming off the bench. And we've seen it over and over again. Now, he has cemented himself. Even though I may not necessarily like the way he plays, it somehow becomes effective sometimes. And especially in a second half, especially in a game where you have guys who are tired and have been running, you can put Emmanuel Boateng in there and you do get a spark. And if the LA Galaxy, Wendy, were in a position where they were up 1-0 or it was 0-0 and you bring in Emmanuel Boateng, all of a sudden you have something going on there. But the problem is the Galaxy, in my opinion, can't actually get to that point where bringing in Emmanuel Boateng is really going to change things up. They did it against Montreal. They did it against San Jose. So that's sort of the game plan that I see for Boateng. But I understand. I know why people say they want to see him start, and he is the only speedy thing on that field whenever he shows up.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that Emma would be a great super sub if we were otherwise functioning and firing on all cylinders. But since we're not, I think what a lot of people are thinking is that even if he exhausts himself over the course of an entire game, and ultimately you really do have to remove him somewhere around the 75th minute because he's just wiped, for those 75 minutes, he is putting forth a huge effort, and he does create activity. I mean, I think his judgment in the final third when he gets in front of goal is really lacking, but when he is up and down shuttling runs and overlapping runs, I think can be effective. And I think when people look at the team, they're saying, we understand that this is not probably his optimal role if we were functioning properly, but since we're not, and we have so many games clustered together, he will function perfectly fine on the wing for a game. And if we're desperate for pieces because we're exhausted, we want to rotate players, as Ziggy probably wanted to do, then okay, put him in the game because it makes sense, especially since you have this whole issue of, well, if you have Boateng on the wing, you can move another person in the middle. You can move Leggett in the middle. You can have, you could put in Kamara as a second striker. You could, instead of trying to put Kamara on the wing. It's just, I think people are thinking it's a rational thing to do, even if it's not the optimal thing to do.
Yeah, it provides a different dimension. I understand it. It makes sense. I will tell you this, that moving, and it goes to my second point, the giant hole in the middle of formation, that giant hole is because of Sebastian Leggett. Sebastian Leggett has not found his groove at all this year. We have not seen him look really comfortable. And two, is not that center player that I think everybody hoped he would be, that he was sort of trying to pick up whenever he was with the U.S. men's national team. I'll tell you this right now. He tends to drift outside and wide and go up to the top of the line more than he ever does sit in the middle and be that playmaker. And even when Jonathan Dos Santos is on the field playing in that position, the Galaxy don't have that distributing playmaker in the center of the field to fill this giant I don't know, sometimes it's like 50% of the field hole that sits in the middle of that formation. And it's Leggett pushing up high. It's Kamara pushing up high. You can go and look at the front line sometimes, Wendy, and you have Alessandrini, Ibrahimovic, Kamara, Leggett, and anybody else who's over there. Sometimes a defender will overlap, and you'll have 5 or 6 guys all sitting on the top line. It's not making any sense. You're not getting late runs in that position either. And if you saw the LA Galaxy go down the field multiple times and pass to the center of the field, there's nobody there because that late run isn't happening. Everybody's making the first run. Kamara and Zlatan are making the first run, and they're covering each other. And so the Galaxy need to figure this part out. And it was something, I think it's something they have to address this summer, is they have to find a playmaker. And however they need to do that, they need to find a number 10. If that means getting rid of Giovanni Dos Santos and Jonathan Dos Santos, I would get rid of Gio in a heartbeat. Jonathan, if you have to make the deal, then he goes with Gio. But they have to find somebody in the center because it's not Sebastian Leggett right now. It's not Ola Kamara. And then when there's nobody in the middle, Wendy, what happens is they push somebody like Perry Kitchen forward because he's trying to fill in that space. And then the Galaxy get beat coming back the other way, and Kitchen's not playing that defensive midfielder role, or Carrasco steps up into it, not his role either. The double pivot fails. It all falls apart. And that's what you saw last night against a much better organized FC Dallas team.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where, it's sort of like a function of illness. One illness infects the rest of the body. And there's so many problems that you can diagnose ultimately that come back to the fact that Giovanni Dos Santos is just never worked for the LA Galaxy, because ultimately, yes, Giovanni Dos Santos is the theoretical playmaker. You could put him right there in the center, and he could be the person who distributes to other players. He's trying to circulate the ball around the field. He could be an attacking midfielder. That's theoretically what he does. But since he can't and he doesn't, well, then Perry Kitchen feels that he needs to push up, and that leaves the back four unprotected, and our defensive line is not already that good. And then Zlatan has to drop back, and then he starts acting as an attacking midfielder, and he's playing out of position. And since he doesn't play defense, that opens up our defense, to attacks. And so it's one of these things where one problem, it has tentacles, and it reaches out like a spider across the entire field, where everyone essentially is hampered in their job because there's this one thing which is just no one refuses to fix. And so this is going to be a problem as long as Giovanni Dos Santos is on the team.
Yeah, or any of the other guys that they decide to get. I mean, get rid of Ola Kamara. I mean, if you want to. Because, you could do that as well. Get rid of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Anybody you can get rid of to get a number 10 at this point, it doesn't matter because the Galaxy don't have one, and they certainly aren't playing like anybody can fill that role.
But it would be absurd to get a number 10 when we're paying $5 million a year to a number 10. That's just ridiculous.
It's worse than that, Wendy. You're paying $6 million a year to a false 9 or I don't know. Nobody really actually knows where Giovanni Dos Santos is supposed to play because he's never actually figured it out at any of the clubs he's been at. So that's how it is. Somebody just in the chat room says that Gio is a 9.5, which is probably true. He's probably somewhere between a 9 and somewhere between a 10, but he's not either of them, and he's far away from both of them. So as far as ways you can get from a 9, as far as way you can get from 10, 9.5 sounds about right.
I mean, the Galaxy needs to get rid of Giovanni Dos Santos. There's nothing else I can say about it except they need to get rid of him. I hope he has the greatest World Cup in the history of World Cups. I hope he wins the Golden Boot and shocks the world with his prowess, because we need someone to take him off our hands. A big L3 team, Tigres, could take him. They have money. I mean, there's a number of L3 teams, since he is a Mexican national team, who probably would take him. But we have to offload him. We must. It's an imperative.
But will they spend $6 million on him?
I don't care. I think lose money on the deal. Get rid of him.
I think Gio is as much of a pipe dream. Getting rid of Gio and Jonathan Dos Santos, while it makes sense in terms of financially and what the Galaxy can do and how it works, I think that's as much of a pipe dream almost as getting, Zinedine Zidane to come to the Galaxy right now. It just doesn't feel like that. I refuse to bring any hope to anybody in this, and we've talked about these rumors, but I refuse to bring you hope to saying that that's going to happen, because it's just, to me, that takes a large shift in the mentality of the front office, and how much do you trust that front office to make that shift? And it's like, okay, I've seen what happened over the last 2 years. I don't trust that front office to make that shift. So now what? Why
would they? I mean, ultimately, this is a situation where the current front office inherited a team that made the playoffs. It wasn't my favorite LA Galaxy team, but it was a playoff LA Galaxy team. In the ensuing 2 years, the team reached the worst it's ever done in the history of the franchise, and then is on its way to being yet another terrible year. And then they extended Chris Klein's contract.
Yeah.
So what does Chris Klein have over Dan Beckerman? Either Dan Beckerman has a dead body in his basement from someone that he has killed, and Chris Klein knows about it and is secretly concealing it from him, or Dan Beckerman just does not pay attention to this team and does not know anything about soccer and has no idea that the front office that he's currently employing is a bunch of not suited for their current positions.
Well, it's if you want to go and compare last year to this year, and I did this, and people yell at me for some reason. They're like, you can't compare last year to this year. It's such a different team, and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. There's some people who really just like to hear themselves talk. I mean, I love to hear myself talk, Wendy. It's why I have a podcast. But I mean, at the same time, I try to at least keep myself somewhere grounded in reality. The LA Galaxy in 2017 through 13 games was 5-5-3. They had 18 points and they had a 0 goal differential, scoring 19 goals, giving away 19 goals. Not great. Not great, not horrible actually. Whenever you look at how they ended the year, but anyway, through that's how it was, and that's where it was. They were 18 points through those 13 games. The LA Galaxy of 2018 currently 5-7-1, 16 points, so 2 points worse than the worst team in franchise history, which was that 2017 team. And they have scored 1 less goal and allowed 3 more goals. They're at a -4 goal differential right now. Now, just to put that in perspective, because I like to give everybody an idea of what the Galaxy have been working with so far this year, I can give you, sort of what the average opponent rank of the LA Galaxy's opponents has been, and it has been a difficult schedule. It absolutely is. There's no denying it. Right now, the average rank of every team that the Galaxy have played so far this year, Wendy, is 9.3. So you're talking about the top 10 teams in the league that the Galaxy basically have been playing through these first 13 games. That's tough. Their average points per game of those opponents is 1.57, which actually puts them well into that upper half, maybe almost the upper third of the league right now in terms of what that points per game is. So they've been having a tough road, and if you look at the schedule coming up, Wendy, you can see there's some chances that the Galaxy can take some points. So, I mean, I like to try to figure out how good the Galaxy are. We've been trying to see, who can they beat, who can they not beat, right? And so on average, the teams they have beaten have an average table position of 14.4. Okay, so a little bit below halfway in the league is where the Galaxy sit in terms of the teams they've beat so far. Their best team that they beat so far was LAFC, who currently sits 7th in the Supporters' Shield, and Portland, who sits 8th in the Supporters' Shield right now, but that was a much different Portland team whenever the Galaxy played them at the beginning of the year. So if you look at the losses and the teams that they've lost to, Wendy, you can see that the losses here are top 5, as in the average opponent rank of their losses is 5.0. So top 5 in the league are the teams that they're losing to. That's not horrible whenever you sit there, and that's actually pretty tough, but it also shows that the Galaxy aren't that good. And that's sort of the other part to this. That's looking in the mirror.
Okay, but the reason they're not that good is not because of a lack of talent. There is talent on the team. The talent is not creating what it should be creating. The reason for that right now, I think, is largely coaching, although ultimately it has to be the front office because the front office hires the coach.
Yeah, you can certainly draw the lines. I agree with you on that. There's also a ton of that. I was talking to somebody who's a longtime observer of the league. They said wait till after the World Cup, wait till the end of July to really see this team. This person tends to take an optimistic view that the Galaxy are still trying to learn each other. That they're still trying to fit each other in, and throwing Zlatan into that mix after they had a preseason without him has screwed up that team, and you can see that. You can see how uncomfortable the guys are. They were much more comfortable in the Montreal and San Jose games whenever Zlatan wasn't on the field, and that's not saying the Galaxy are a better team without Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I don't believe that, but I believe that how they have to try to fit him into the lineup is something that is causing the team some heartache right now, and in terms of how they line up. And that, again, goes to coaching. I agree 100%. They have to figure out a way to attack some of these things, to figure out, to give players some clear and concise information. If you've listened to players talk after the game, Wendy, you can hear them talking about how they're confused in positioning. Zlatan Ibrahimovic said it, that the team is confused in positioning, and whenever you're confused in positioning in terms of not understanding, and it's not it's not like they don't know where to be. It's they don't know where to be at the certain time with the guys that are around them. So it's a chemistry issue as well. But he says that whenever you play a team that's well organized, and a team like FC Dallas, who's been playing the same system for a while, under Oscar Pareja, who I think is a great coach. You want to talk about a coach that maybe the LA Galaxy, it would be kind of fun to see what could happen. Oscar Pareja might be great to see what he would do with the lineup the LA Galaxy have. He tends to be more creative. But anyway, you look at those, it's whenever you play against a more organized team like FC Dallas, you're going to get beat. And that's what Zlatan basically said. And I want to actually get to some post-game comments because I have a whole bunch of them here.
Okay.
I had my assistant Matt broke all these down, so I want to make sure I play some of them so that way all of his effort wasn't in vain. So let's hear from Ashley Cole first, and then we have some from Sigi, and we have some from Zlatan, and we can sort of jump around a little bit. So here's Ashley Cole talking about the game.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I think we didn't come out in the first half how we've kind of wanted to. And again, at home, we conceded kind of sloppy goals.
All right, there's Ashley Cole real quick. Let's go to Ashley Cole talking a little bit about the tactical problems that the LA Galaxy have.
When we kind of go behind, we just start obviously playing long balls. It's not ideal. You know, we scored 2 goals from it today, but you know we have better quality than just hitting long balls. Kind of worked today in the end, but yeah, I hope we don't keep going down because I'm not a fan of keep hitting long balls, to be honest. We like I said, we've got the quality to play. I just think we have to move and work for each other a little bit more to create chances. I think we're playing too much in our positions and not kind of having the freedom.
See, okay, so a little insight there. There's 2 things I want to take from that, Wendy, that Ashley Cole, the last thing there. One is playing too many long balls. That is a symptom of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And 2 is playing too much in our positions and with not enough freedom, which is interesting because he's not saying they don't know where their positions are. He's saying that there's not enough flow. I mean, you're talking about, again, listen to Ashley Cole when he speaks. Boys and girls, I mean, this is as clear as I can make it. Ashley Cole knows what he speaks about. He is a football genius in terms of, the only person I've ever met who's smarter with football was probably Nigel Young. But yes, Ashley Cole gets it.
Actually, Cristiano Ronaldo gave an interview this week in which he said that Ashley Cole was the single hardest defender he ever had to play against.
It makes sense. Ashley Cole's extremely smart. So he's talking about that. Now, let's go ahead and do a little comparison here. I'm going to try to do this. Hopefully I get the right one. Let's hear what Sigi Schmid had to say about some of the formation stuff and see if you can pick the differences with Ashley Cole. Here we go.
Well, part of it is me because I made some lineup changes in there because I thought, with the game coming up with Portland, we needed to make sure we had some guys who are fresh. So the first thing I'm going to do is analyze whether I made the right decisions. But obviously, there's opportunities. We've got more than 11 players on this team, and when your number's called, you got to be ready. But just our intensity, our desire, our drive, our determination in the first 15, 20 minutes of the game was not good.
Yeah, I disagree with Sigi on a lot of that stuff. Here's the actual clip that I wanted to get to for his tactical thing. So here it is.
I think the whole team's frustrated with today's performance. It's not just Ibra. I think we're all frustrated. Obviously, he changes how we play. We end up playing more balls in the air. We got to get onto second balls more often, and our service has to improve. Our crossing, it's too inconsistent. It's too hit and miss. And when Ibra's on the field, crossing the ball and being able to get onto balls in the air becomes a strength of our team. So, that part of our game needs to improve.
You had Ashley Cole saying that he doesn't like playing long balls, and you have Sigi Schmid saying that when Ibra comes on, you play long balls. That to me is just, okay, so if we have our red flags, then go ahead and start waving your red flag, because that's a red flag. That's a problem. And whether it's Ashley Cole's problem or whether it's Sigi Schmid's problem, Ashley Cole, Wendy, right now is a guy who gets to sit in on coaching.
I think
coaching
Ashley
sessions.
Cole should be coach. What about that?
You could absolutely do it. If you wanted to, you could absolutely say that.
Can I nominate him?
You can. I don't know that he has all his licenses yet. I think he's working on it, which is why he's sort of in the coaches' sessions and doing stuff.
Yeah. Ashley Cole, get your licenses, and I will nominate you to be LA Galaxy head coach.
Yeah, it very well could be. But anyway, okay, so there's that. Let's get from Zlatan now a little bit, because I know everybody likes to hear Zlatan speak.
Oh,
so
gosh.
let me see if I can find a good Zlatan. Let's go Zlatan now on his game recap. Zlatan usually talks for like 12 minutes at a time, so we'll see if this is the good one. So here's Zlatan.
It's irritating, of course, when you lose the game. It's, like I always say, it's never good. Yeah, losing 3-0, chase the game. I played more than 800 games, and it's very difficult to win games when you're losing 2-3-0. Doesn't matter who you are, it's very difficult. And I think the game against LAFC, we were losing 3-0, 1-4-3. Now everybody is like, yeah, if we lose 3-0, 4-0, yeah, we can catch it, 5-4 or a 4-3. But it's not easy. Whoever you play against is a difficult game. So, and the game today was the same thing, 3-0. We tried to catch, we came to 3-2, and yeah, we lost the game. So it's very, how do you say it, triste. It's very boring to lose. And it's never good to lose. So we need to train harder. We need to do better, much better in the games. And we had 2 games in a row where we won, and today we lost. So we look forward. New game Saturday, I think, and tomorrow we travel. And yeah, let's focus on the new game. And today, let's rest today. Let's think about it tomorrow. Let's go through it on Friday. And let's play Saturday.
All right, so Zlatan Ibrahimovic there. I would like to point out that he did, whenever he was searching for a word there, Wendy, he said, how do you say it? And then he eventually says boring, right? That's not the word he was looking for. At least we don't believe it was, because he actually said something in Spanish. He said triste. Triste is sad. Right, so whenever you look at it that way, it's sort of like, oh, okay. Well, I think that maybe tells the story better. Zlatan speaks like a bazillion languages, and Spanish is one of them, although he says that he's not comfortable speaking it. But that was definitely Spanish and triste, and I had an actual...
It's also French.
Yeah, is it? What is it in French? Is
Triste.
it the same? Is
Triste.
Wait, what is it?
Triste.
Okay, what does it mean? Same thing?
Sad.
Sad. Okay,
Same thing. You spell it the same in Spanish and French. It's just you say it differently.
Say it differently. Okay, good. Well, we sort of look. It's just a little insight, little picks, like things that you can sort of take away from these guys. So that's what you have. You have Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Somebody's also saying that listless. People in the chat room saying Zlatan's pretty spot on. So yeah, I mean that's sort of where we get. That's what you get from this game. This is a game I expected the LA Galaxy to lose. I thought they had a chance to get a point. I thought a draw would have been great. They didn't play anywhere near that, and I will definitely lay this one at the feet of Sigi Schmid in those lineup changes. There was no need to, in my opinion, unless people are injured that we don't know about, which is not the case. Then they should have stuck with a lineup. He had been preaching, Wendy. He had been preaching before this the consistency in the defensive lineup. He had been preaching about how we're starting to click because these guys. He even went. Larry Morgan went out to training and he was talking to Siani and Shelvik, and they were talking about how they're playing together now and they're finally understanding each other in terms of their football language and how the two move with each other and how they work with each other, and they're finally understanding. And then he pulls them apart and doesn't put them there. So it makes no sense to me. And if you're going to blame anybody on this one, I'm going with Sigi Schmid. This was a loss that he put on, and it's a loss that he now drags into Portland. Whenever you look at that as well, because now the team doesn't have any more momentum. They lost that, Wendy. They don't have Ola Kamara, who is tied for their leading goal scorer with Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So they both have 5 goals now. Zlatan got 2 in the FC Dallas game. So I mean that's where you sit now. So now, what do you think? You almost have to say, what are you going to get from Portland? And I think the answer is we don't really know.
Well, we're going to lose to Portland, but I'm just saying that I think of this sometimes in terms of how, because I'm a lawyer, I think of it legally. And so I'd say, is this a situation where you would apply several liability, joint liability, or joint and several liability? Several liability is where you apportion fault according to how much a person is culpable. So that you lay 30% of fault. If Ziggy is 100% fault, that he gets 100% of the responsibility. That's several liability. Joint liability would be that all wrongdoers get 100% of the liability. So if Chris Klein and P. Vianis and Sigi Schmid and Dominic Kamir, if they each have some role to play, then they each should be 100% held responsible for what happened in this case. And I kind of think in this situation, yes, Ziggy is 100% responsible, but if nothing changes, then I'm going to apply joint liability and I will hold all of you responsible until you're fired. Because if you allow it to continue when someone is making poor decisions over and over and over again, you should be held responsible as well.
Yeah. No, there's something to that. People in the chat room says, Jim in the chat room says, everyone is at fault. Let's see. This is my favorite one. This was all caps, so I always enjoy an all caps comment. Josh, if LeBron can take the Cavs team take that Cavs team to the NBA Finals, can he also take us to MLS Cup? Yes. Yes is the answer. Yes is the answer. All right, I want to get to some calls that we had that came in. Let's start with Keishan. Keishan was our first caller here, calling from Ventura County.
Hey, Josh, it's Keishan again, calling from Ventura County. Once again, I'm very sad, but this time I'm also really sick. I'm sick of our front office. I'm sick of Sigi and his lack of ideas. I'm sick of this team not having a style of play, which is Sigi's fault. I'm sick of Zlatan getting frustrated with every player on the field when they misplace a pass when he also makes mistakes. I am sick of us only attacking and scoring when we're chasing the game, and I'm sick of our atrocious defending. And I love this team, but I'm just so sick of my weeks being ruined by these losses and these poor performances and the lack of change. Anyway, thanks for the show. Keep it up.
All right, there's Keishan. I will only address, I think, maybe a little part of that in terms of the LA Galaxy scoring. They can only score when they're down goals. And that is, and it's an argument that we've been having on this podcast for a while, Wendy, that the LA Galaxy only get offensively minded whenever they're down 2 goals. Otherwise, Sigi Schmid puts them in a conservative defensive stance and expects them to just, as he says, with a potent offense like the LA Galaxy have, which, Wendy, you already went through all of the wonderful players the LA Galaxy have on this team. So they have a potent offense. Sigi Schmid says, well, this team will find a goal. Right? So the defense has to be the most important part. So then, okay, then why? It's not the best part of this team, that's for sure. It may be the most expensive part of anybody's defense in Major League Soccer. They are the most expensive defense in Major League Soccer. But it's not the most expensive part in terms of how much the LA Galaxy spend. They spend more on the offensive side of things. They have more talent on the offensive side of the ball. And only when they get into offensive sets, you saw them go into a 3-2-3-2 to end the game. I had to do it in my head as I was doing it. A 3-2-3-2 to finish the game off was better. And so you sit there and say, okay, well, if you're scoring goals in that set, and yes, you're going to give up something defensively, but let's be honest, Wendy, between you and me, the defense ain't all that great anyway, right? So maybe you should try to...
No defenders.
Yeah.
How about that? What's that? That's a radical idea. How about no defensive line?
Yeah, it certainly is. It wouldn't be a horrible idea in terms of what the Galaxy have. But I mean, I think that if they rely more on the offense, if they put more pressure, if they set themselves up in more offensive sets, they're gonna have. You've seen them score goals whenever they're down. They can do it. It's just a matter of also defending while that happens. Even Ashley Cole going into that. I think that even Ashley Cole playing in the defensive midfielder was not a horrible idea. In fact, he got an assist on the night. And Ashley Cole is a world-class player, or at least he was a world-class player. He's certainly one of the best players on the field for the Galaxy whenever he's there. Give him the ball, let him distribute, let him find people, let him play some defense, but just you can't let him be a winger. He's got to sit a little bit in that DM side.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Okay, good. I'm glad. Let's go to Sean calling from Arcadia.
This is Sean from Arcadia, and I've got a couple questions. What is up with VAR? It doesn't seem like they used it very effectively this game. Why is Steres still playing? He really looked bad this game. And what was up with the Dallas goalkeeper constantly crossing the line when he was kicking the ball and falling down and rolling around when nothing was happening? Pretty tough loss tonight. Thanks a lot. Hopefully we do better.
All right, Wendy, do you want to attack any of those? Do you have anything in there that is especially?
Why is Steres still playing? I have no idea. VAR, I don't know what is going on with VAR. It is, I don't know how many times this season I've been saying VAR. Right. Yeah. Like, shouldn't we have a VAR? Is it because they don't seem to use it except when it hurts us? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm definitely the wrong person to assess what the hell is going on with VAR.
Okay, so for everybody who was complaining about the referee and the calls last night, I hate to break it to you, the only call that he got wrong and the only card that VAR missed was the one that ended up giving Coleman a red card, because there was no way that was a red card on anybody. They gave it to him for violent conduct, which it was basically a hand to the face of Siani. The hand is barely to the face, if anything. It's certainly not violent conduct. They totally screwed that up. Drew Fisher, the referee, totally screwed that up. Zlatan got called offside on a goal. Guess what? He was offside. VAR confirmed it after they originally raised the flag and called it, and even though he scored, he was offside. I saw the replay. That was correct. The handball in the, I think, 83rd minute, that to me wasn't a handball. It was too close in terms of there's a couple things you have to take into account for handballs, which is stupid. I think they should change the rule that anytime the ball hits the hand, it's a handball. That's it. Because it doesn't matter. I don't care if it goes off your own foot and runs up your arm and hits your hand. It's a hand. If it nicks your finger, it's a handball. Just make it easy. If it touches your hand, it's a handball. We wouldn't have these arguments anymore. But in this case, the Dallas's own player goes to clear it. It's like, I think they're separated by less than half a yard whenever he kicks it. I mean, maybe 3 feet, maybe a full yard. There's no time for him to react, and his arm isn't sticking out there like he's going to try to block the shot of his own player to clear the ball, and it hits his arm at his side. I had no problems with it. So everybody who wants to complain about the referees, the only thing the referee got wrong, there were 2 things in my mind. 2 things and 2 things only. One is that red card to Coleman, which helped the LA Galaxy out, was one of the reasons they got that second goal. And then the other one was he allowed Dallas to waste time. And granted, he stuck a whole bunch of added time on the end, Wendy, but he didn't produce yellow cards early enough for time wasting. And in fact, he didn't produce a yellow card until the 92nd minute. For time wasting, and Dallas started wasting time in the 60th minute, or maybe even before that. As soon as they scored their 3rd goal, they started wasting time. So
last night's game, okay, but how many times this season has there been a need for VAR and they just didn't use it? I can think of at least 3. I mean, there's been multiple times this season where I've been like, I've been shouting VAR, VAR, and no VAR.
Yeah. Most of the time that VAR has been used in all those situations. So. There's a difference between a check and a review. And that's what, and they do a horrible job. And Kevin and I talked about it on Monday night. They do a horrible job of communicating any of this stuff to players, to coaches, to press people, to fans. It's just, they do it in the dark, and apparently they don't care that they're just alienating everybody from it. Most of the time the plays are checked by the VAR official. In fact, every play is basically checked by the VAR official. He's able to go back and look at all those plays. He can signal down whole thing. And they even checked, the VAR. They used it on the red card to Coleman. So yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those things. In this game, Drew Fisher screwed up by not issuing a lot of yellow cards to FC Dallas early on for time wasting. Sigi Schmid was critical of that, and you could understand why. So that certainly made some sense there. But in terms of the overall refereeing, it wasn't actually that bad. There have been way worse games, and the Galaxy have, as Wendy, you pointed out, have gotten screwed way worse in the past by some refereeing, and this just wasn't that game. I think they got it all the time. It's certainly one of those things. So anyway, that's where it goes. So we appreciate it.
So why is Steres still playing? You have to answer his second question.
I thought we already did. We didn't have an answer for it. Remember?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's unknowable. This is like Fermi's enigma. We are never going to solve this mathematical equation.
Yeah, it's not going to. I can't. I don't understand why he's playing it right back. So yeah, it's one of those things. I don't get it. I've already said, I think Sigi Schmid overthought it. He thought he could win 2 games where there was never a chance for him to win 2 games. We could have won 1. So he had to pick which one he wanted. Maybe he's choosing the Portland game as the game he thinks he can win, Wendy. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're looking at this from the wrong side. No, we're not. I was trying there for a second. I was trying to give him a little bit and nothing. Let's go over some LA Galaxy news real quick before we get you through the standings and then prepared here for this Portland game. The LA Galaxy travel schedule. We're recording on Thursday night. LA Galaxy are already in Portland as we speak. They traveled up to Portland on Thursday, so the day after the game. They had no rest. They literally got on the plane, and they will go up to Portland, and they will train on Portland, train in Portland on Friday. So Friday they will train. Saturday the game is at 2 p.m., and they will leave from that game immediately after that game. They will go to the airport and get home. That's at least the plan right now. So as long as everything goes as planned, they will be back home in Los Angeles on Saturday night. And then, of course, we know they have a Wednesday U.S. Open Cup game, which is why they're trying to get everybody home and everybody back. So that's a little bit of stuff there. And, of course, that U.S. Open Cup game is against FC Golden State Force. I don't know why they couldn't add just another qualifier onto their name just to make it more FC Golden State Force, Ajax or something. They definitely should have added one more. Amateur team from the PDL, the Premier Development League. They're based in Whittier. They beat the Las Vegas Lights 2-1 in their third round Open Cup game, which of course gave us the chance of not having llamas come to StubHub Center because Las Vegas Lights plays with llamas, or they have llamas as their mascots. So we missed out big time on that one. So it's an amateur team. I do not expect, as I've said already, Wendy, that a lot of starters will be in this team.
Will there be an actual llama at the game?
No, there won't be because they're not playing Las Vegas. That's the whole thing. They FC Golden State Force screwed us out of llamas and I think Freddie Adu. So between those two things, we got screwed.
I'd love to see a llama.
You and me both. That's what we wanted. All right. Let's see. Eastern Conference standings, the top team in the Eastern Conference, Atlanta United. Columbus Crew, who the LA Galaxy will play towards the end of this month coming up, is second in the Eastern Conference right now. Certainly got bailed out in their last game thanks to VAR or people's blind use of VAR. So Sporting Kansas City is number 1 in the West. FC Dallas number 2 in the West. LAFC number 3 in the West, Portland number 4. So the LA Galaxy, who sit in 8th position, will play the number 4 team. Not really helping out that average, Wendy, in terms of the teams that they're playing and trying to find an easier schedule there. And then they'll end up playing Real Salt Lake after that. And RSL right now is sitting at 5th in the West. So there's a lot of congestion there. And then Atlanta United goes 1 with Sporting Kansas City 2 and Columbus 3 in terms of the Supporters Shield. People pointing out in the chat room, by the way, Las Vegas Lights FC just signed Raul Mendiola, former LA Galaxy player. So he'll be over there. Okay, let's schedule real quick, and then we'll get to Portland. Obviously, the Portland game coming up. Then you have that U.S. Open Cup game on Wednesday, June 6th, 7:30 p.m. at the StubHub Track and Field Stadium. That's where you can find that one. Then home again Saturday, June 9th for Real Salt Lake, and then it is World Cup break time. The LA Galaxy will not play again until Saturday, June 30th, when they are away at Stanford Stadium to the San Jose Earthquakes. But quick turnaround time, Wendy. They'll play Saturday, June 30th, Wednesday, July 4th, and then Saturday, July 7th. Wednesday, July 4th against DC United at home, and then home to the Columbus Crew, where Giassi Zardes returns to StubHub Center for the first time since being traded to Columbus. So I expect him to score about 7 or 14 goals. And then you'll finish out, or at least you'll get to the middle of July, going away, back another East Coast trip, Wendy, to play the New England Revolution, who are playing well under Brad Friedel. So that's all the fun stuff that's there. Are you ready for a Portland game then, here, Wendy?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do a little bit of Portland game for everybody right now. All right, the LA Galaxy will travel to the Portland Timbers on Saturday, June 2nd, 2018. This is a 2 p.m. kickoff. That game can be found on ESPN2, nationally televised game, so do not cry whenever it's not on ESPN Plus, because it'll be on ESPN2. You should be actually able to find that if you sign in with your cable provider, of course. Portland is 6-3-2, 20 points, 11 games played. 4th in the Western Conference, 8th in the Supporters Shield. The LA Galaxy 5-7-1, 16 points, 13 games played, 2 games more, 4 points less. That's what you need to take from that. 8th in the Western Conference, 15th in the Supporters Shield. The last game was a 3-2 win for Portland as they traveled to Colorado and won. And as luck would have it, Portland is now unbeaten at home, 4-0-0, and unbeaten in their last 6 games. The Portland offense has scored 19 goals, which is 1 more than the Galaxy, which puts them in the middle of the MLS pack. And Portland's defense has allowed 17 goals, which is about 7th in the league, actually one of the upper teams in terms of defense. Sebastian Blanco and Diego Valeri both have scored 5 goals each. And so that's something to really look at. And then they had Armenteros, who is having back-to-back goal of the week wins and has looked really, really dangerous for Portland. The really fun thing here, Wendy, that I see is the formation that Portland plays in, which is humorously referred to as the Christmas tree. 4-3-2-1. Which makes things look very interesting. But what you really have to understand there, Wendy, is that you have Armenteros up front, or if it's not him, it's Adi, who has been coming off the bench lately. You have Blanco and Valeri, who are up there. You have Diego Chara, who's also sort of in that offensive side. And then you have Flores and Paredes on either side. They're just stacked. That front 6 has so many people. And they're on fire right now in Portland. Like I said, 4-0-0 at home this year. They've won 6 in a row. They are Major League Soccer's hottest team. I don't see how the LA Galaxy, knowing that Ola Kamara's not here, away on international duty with Norway. Not that I think that's a huge issue. because I think it puts them in a better position in terms of how they line up in a 4-5-1 with Zlatan Ibrahimovic being that lone striker, something we haven't seen from the LA Galaxy yet. So I don't think it, but to me, this is like running into a buzzsaw, and of course, going against the Timbers, that's probably an apt analogy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're going to lose the Portland game. I just hope no one gets injured. That's what I'm thinking. Come on, knock on wood. No injuries.
Yeah.
No injuries. I don't want Zlatan on turf. I really don't want to. I'm not going to be happy seeing Zlatan play on turf. I'll tell you that much.
It is quote unquote the best turf in the league, and I mean that's a qualifier that you have to make. It is different. It's not, and even New England, I guess, has the same quote unquote turf as Portland now, but it's not like Minnesota turf, which I wouldn't even allow Zlatan to think about getting on the plane going to Minnesota. That's not happening as long as they're playing on that field. There's some places that like Seattle, Zlatan doesn't get to go to. That's not happening. But he's going to Portland. In fact, I'm pretty sure he already traveled to Portland.
But people forget, like, literally Zlatan tore his ACL in April of a year ago.
Yeah.
Like 1 year ago, he tore his ACL. And it's just, I know we forget about it because he's been playing so many games and he plays like he's fine and that he's never even had an ACL injury and you would never even know it. But it did happen, and I get scared every time that I think about it. So
here's the problem, though. I mean, and I agree with you. I mean, if you had a choice here, you probably don't let Zlatan go, right? You're like, hey, you don't need to go, but there's nobody else who can play there. You're going to put Ari Lassiter up there. You're gonna put Bradford Jameson up there, who I don't even think has been playing that much for LA Galaxy 2. So he doesn't. I mean, there's no options here. It is one of the shallower positions, but with Zlatan and with Ola Kamara, as much as we complain that they play in the same position, Wendy, which they do, they also can cover for each other if one guy gets injured or one guy needs a break or if one guy's off on international duty. So this is a positive of having Zlatan and Ola Kamara together, is that Zlatan now will be able to go up all by himself at the top. The Galaxy will be able to play in a 4-5-1 or a 4-2-3-1, however you want to categorize the midfield, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. And they'll be able to do that knowing that, Zlatan Ibrahimovic will be playing in his preferred position, and you'll still have 5 midfielders underneath. Who those 5 midfielders will be was a great question. I think you're probably going to get Perry Kitchen and Servando Carrasco again. I think you could get Ima Boateng or Chris Pontius out on the left. You could get Sebastian Lletget in that number 10 role again. You can get Ramon Alessandrini in the number 10 or out on the right wing. So those are sort of the lineups. It's a very simple, easy to predict lineup for this one, I think. The only question is, does Sigi Schmid mess with the defense again? Or does he go back to, Cole? Does he go back to Shelvik? Does he go back to Siani? Does he go back to Romney? Does he go for the, hey, let's not mess around, let's put together a defense that at least has a fighting chance against Portland and just go with that nice vanilla defensive lineup? I think if he overthinks it again, Wendy, he's going to drive people crazy because you can't have it happen again.
I mean, I hate to it causes me to shudder when I think that putting Daniel Steres at right back was the product of thinking.
That's a good point. That's a good point. No, I know what you mean, and that is something that I think Sigi Schmid, he said, as you heard in the clip there, when he was going to go back and look and see if that was his fault. I think he will find, if he's honest with himself, it was his fault, and that he'll be able to correct it. It's an easy fix. It's not hard. Again, you don't have to overthink it. If I can probably figure out what your starting lineup is going to be, you're not overthinking it. I guarantee it. All right, because I barely think at all whenever I do this, so there's certainly not overthinking involved. Do you think the Galaxy have any chance of beating Portland?
Well, it's MLS.
There you
go. MLS is going to MLS, obviously, which basically means random things happen. But I think Portland has won 6 games in a row.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, all right. And they're at home, and Portland has a phenomenal crowd at home. I mean, I don't want any injuries. Portland, why you have turf?
Yeah.
Why you have turf?
I think that, I swear to God, I think there's an actual underground river that runs right underneath the stadium. It would make drainage more difficult. It's not impossible. All right, listen, nothing's impossible in terms of drainage and what you can do, Wendy. And I think Portland has enough money to be able to try to do it. They just don't want to. That's the bottom line. They don't want to do it. So people, by the way, are saying that we should bring Zlatan on as a sub, and I would just like to remind everybody, there's no Ola Kamara. All right? By the way, international duty update. I'll give you everybody who's on international duty or who has been called up. You had Jonathan Dos Santos, Giovanni Dos Santos with Mexico until the World Cup or until they get sent home. So that's certainly something that they won't be back anytime soon, as far as I'm concerned. I think both of them go to Russia, despite the fact that I don't think Giovanni Dos Santos deserves to go to Russia. He'll end up beyond the team. So they both go to Russia. That'll happen. So they're gone. You have Ola Kamara, who will miss this game against Portland. He'll miss the U.S. Open Cup game. Not a big deal in terms of Open Cup. Emre Clementa was called up by Montenegro. The LA Galaxy declined that call-up, which they're allowed to do. These are international friendlies and not on FIFA dates. Okay, so the FIFA dates start in the World Cup, and those are mandatory FIFA dates. But this is not that, and so they did not have to release him. And I was told that it was because of the right back situation, the Galaxy being thin there, and then they started Dan Steres there. So I don't know. It's one of those. But anyway, that was one of the things. I think Clementa could play a role in the right back here in these next couple of games. So that's probably why they didn't let him go with Montenegro. So that is how the international break sort of goes down. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Wendy? Because that's it. I think we made it to the end of the show. I think we gave everybody a pretty good idea of what to expect against Portland, what the major issues that sort of had a hiccup there in FC Dallas. By the way, homophobic goal chants, not cool. All right. Not cool. This podcast, any podcast that I know of, does not tolerate any of that crap. If you see people doing it, point it to them. I call them the LA Galaxy. The supporters groups do a great job, in my opinion. They really do. I heard of people getting kicked out yesterday for people doing it within those supporters groups. It's outside of that that's the real problem. People were certainly highlighting different portions of the stadium that were doing that. And so the LA Galaxy need to do a better job. The supporter groups will police their own. They can't be responsible for anything more than the people within their group.
And there's also, it's not like there's a shortage of security guards. I'm sorry, but half the game, I see these security guards ambling around doing absolutely nothing. Yeah. If they actually are, I know there are those chants that I hear them on occasion, and literally the security guards at LA Galaxy, they do nothing. So you could just send them off and have them do a job. You pay them to do it.
It certainly is. And so the Galaxy need to do better. And if they don't do better, it's on them. Apparently, they don't want to eradicate it because it's really not that difficult in terms of give the security guards. This is always my double-edged sword. Giving security guards and the people, the ushers that are around there, like any sort of power sort of makes me feel nervous. But in this particular case, like if you go to Angel Stadium, you can't raise your middle finger and flip people off. They're going to kick you out, and it happens pretty quickly. That's sort of needs to happen here in terms of that chant. Needs to stop. Can't happen anymore, and that's it. Kick those people out. I don't care if they're season ticket holders. Kick them out. They don't get to come back anymore. All right? Everybody knows it's not cool, especially not on Pride Night. I thought it was a really great night. There were 18,000 people there on a Wednesday night. When has there ever been 18,000 people anywhere in Los Angeles on a Wednesday night? That never happens. That's 3,000 or 4,000 people higher than it normally is, Wendy, on a Wednesday night. So that's a great turnout for a midweek game. And there was some, the game was bad. Yeah, I get it. There was a lot of frustration with Dallas. Yeah, I get it. Don't let them score 3 goals, and then they won't waste time, and then you won't be shouting, I guess, homophobic chants at them. I don't get it. I don't get the connection. Just stop doing it. And that's really it. Stop doing it. And if you have friends that do it, don't be those people's friends anymore. Kick them out themselves. I'm tired of this crap. All right. Doesn't need to happen. All right. I'm off my soapbox. Anything else?
No.
Okay, good. All right. If you, of course, actually, Wendy, why don't you tell people where they can find you and we'll go.
You can find me at Corner of the Galaxy in American Soccer Now and on Twitter at BardsBlonde.
All right. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at JGuesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com, all of our articles. Read stuff by Larry Morgan. Larry Morgan not on Twitter. I'm slowly convincing him maybe to get on Twitter. Nah, it's never going to happen. But Larry's doing a great job for us. A lot of great stuff, a lot of great articles there as well. So head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can get our scarves. I, of course, will be out there on Wednesday for the U.S. Open Cup game. We have a podcast on Monday night with Kevin Baxter, which might, I think, be his last one before he takes off to Russia. So we are planning to do some stuff while he's away in Russia as well. But nonetheless, it'll be interesting to maybe we can get his take on that as well. So definitely check out the podcast on Monday. But the game, again, the LA Galaxy will face off against the Portland Timbers at 2 p.m. on Saturday, June 2nd. ESPN2 is where you can find that. We'll see if the Galaxy can stun the world, shock the world, and the Timbers' 6-game winning streak can come away with the victory. But if not, we'll still be here on Monday. For Miss Wendy Thomas, I'm Josh Guesman. You've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. And for all of your independent LA Galaxy news, discussion, and entertainment, including this podcast, head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Fans, thanks for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.